Welcome to Diet and Nutrition During Chemotherapy and Beyond. Julie Lanford, MPH, RD, CSO, LDN, is the Wellness Director for Cancer Services at a nonprofit in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She is a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and board-certified specialist in oncology nutrition with 15 years of experience working in oncology. Julie developed a healthy living website for cancer services that translates evidence-based nutrition guidelines into consumer-friendly messages for everyday life. Today, Julie will share her knowledge and experience with healthy dietary options to assist you as you undergo treatment and beyond. Thank you, Julie. I turn this over to you now.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be with you here today to talk about nutrition during chemotherapy and beyond, specifically for ovarian cancer patients and survivors. My name is Julie Lanford, and I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I'm a board-certified specialist in oncology nutrition, and I have my master's in public health from UNC Chapel Hill and my bachelor's degree from NC State. So if there's anyone watching who's from North Carolina, you know that means I have a heart divided. But I always tell people about my training because there's a lot of opinions about nutrition, and it turns out that not all the opinions are expert opinions. So we do encourage you to get your nutrition advice from registered dietitian nutritionists who have been trained in accredited programs on evidence-based nutrition care. I also have spent almost my entire career working in oncology, so have worked alongside supporting people who faced ovarian cancer for many years. And so I'm very happy to be here to share this information with you. Hopefully you'll find it helpful. I work for a nonprofit agency called Cancer Services, and I'm the community engagement director, and I'm also author and creator of cancerdietitian.com. So lots of additional information if you're interested. Would love to connect with you in the future. So today we're going to cover a lot of information in a little bit of time. We will discuss essentially nutrition during treatment, and then if you're doing well and not having a lot of nutrition related side effects from your treatments, or you're done with active treatments and you're able to eat pretty normally, we will also talk about what I call a survivor diet, or just general healthy eating guidelines for cancer risk reduction and healthy survivorship. But I always start kind of in the beginning to cover the basics of what you need during treatment, specifically during chemotherapy. So we'll kick off with what to look for to know if you're not getting enough nutrition, because malnutrition is a big problem for people during treatment. We'll talk about 3 tips for when eating is hard. We'll talk about foods to provide energy and maintain your muscle, and then how to maximize your intake of calories and protein. So you want to aim to give your body the tools it needs to function at its best. During treatment, our first priority is really keyed in on getting enough calories and enough protein, because those are kind of the building blocks. Once we know we can meet those, then we might focus on phytonutrients, which are just plant nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. And I will say there's lots of ways to do this. So I don't want you to feel like the challenges that you're facing make it impossible. It's not always easy. So we have oncology dietitians are trained to work alongside you to help troubleshoot as you go through treatment. So feel free to make sure that you're checking into those resources. Sometimes the nurses are really great for this too. But I always encourage people to bring up, if you're not able to eat, if you feel like you're low on energy, you're not getting enough calories and protein, let's troubleshoot on what we might be able to do. So paying attention to your body is the first thing to know if you're not getting enough nutrition. It can cause several issues, and these are kind of the main things that I encourage people to watch out for and make sure that you are discussing with your medical team if you're facing any weight loss. Typically, when you lose weight during treatment, that's muscle loss, and that can contribute to feeling poorly. It can contribute to a weakened immune system. So we do pay attention to weight loss. Also, if you have really quick weight loss, it usually indicates that you're dehydrated, and that's something that we want to address quickly. and you feel awful when you're dehydrated. So it's pretty easy to get rehydrated with some fluids, but you need to make sure to let your medical team know. So weight loss is a great sign to, prompt you to reach out to your team and figure out what's going on. Muscle loss, which is a little harder to detect outside of weight loss, but if your clothes are fitting differently, if you notice that your body is generally weaker when you're doing daily activities, that might indicate muscle loss. Muscle weakness, low energy, which, let's be honest, who's not going to have lower levels of energy during chemotherapy? But really, if you're feeling like this is not, more energy loss than I expected, easily fatigued, and you're doing the things that, you have been suggested, those are all signs that you may want to have a conversation with your doctor or your medical team about, hey, am I getting hydrated? Am I getting enough calories? Am I getting enough protein? If not, what is the barrier to getting those, and how can we troubleshoot getting more in? So oftentimes you don't feel like eating. And that can be really hard because we are pushing you to eat more calories, eat protein, keep your body nourished, but then you don't feel like it. You might eat some, it's not sitting well. So I have a couple of tips that will hopefully be helpful for those of you having a hard time getting enough nutrition in. First of all, energy, which the unit of energy that we use as dietitians is calories. So I like to use the term calories is energy. So if it's a high calorie food, it's a high energy food. So to maximize your calories, you want to choose foods that are high in healthy fats like avocados, nut-based foods, and oils. Making smoothies is a really great way to get some energy in when you don't feel like chewing up food. Sometimes drinking it is easier. So smoothies or other blended foods, milkshakes even, can help make your nutrients easier to swallow. So really keying in on getting plenty of calories, even if it's a small amount of food. If it's a high calorie food, it will still help to energize your body. Second thing, if you have a poor appetite or you can't eat a lot at one time, it's really important that you eat on a schedule. Even if it's a small meal, having a meal within an hour of waking up and every 2 hours after that is my general guide for getting enough nutrients in or maximizing kind of the appetite that you might have. What I will say is that a lot of people have medicine they have to take on an empty stomach. So if you have medicine you need to take on an empty stomach, I suggest as soon as you wake up, you take that medicine so that you can eat an hour later and then start off this kind of schedule throughout the day. You may need to set alarms because you might not have very much of an appetite cue from your body. Your body's under a little bit of stress. So sometimes our stress response is to slow down digestion and to not have as much appetite. So what I really encourage people to do is use alarms or timers, have a caregiver, somebody that is really time oriented, and have them be your, signal to, hey, it's been 2 hours since you ate last. What's something that I could bring you, or suggest a snack, even if it's a small amount that doesn't, it will still help. And when you're eating every couple of hours throughout the day, those add up, and is much easier for people to meet their calorie goals than trying to cram it into 2 or 3 larger meals. So very important, don't skip your meals, because if you think about eating every 2 to 3 hours, if you skip a meal or push it too long, then you're missing that opportunity to add more calories into your day. And, by the end of the day, you only have so many hours. So we really don't want you to miss it. So those alarms can be really helpful. Or, like I said, have that caregiver. The third tip is your food choice. So I often give people kind of a pass, especially during treatment, not to worry so much about the quality of the foods they're eating. We really do key in on the calories and the protein as the building blocks. Now, if you're feeling pretty well and you're sort of tuned into more optimal nutrition and that makes you motivated and really feel good, I'm all about the good, high quality nutrition foods during treatment. But I also say, if you do not feel well, if you only feel like having a milkshake, you know what? That milkshake is going to nourish your body better than not having anything at all. So I do encourage people not to get overly concerned with the quality of the foods that they're consuming, and to just focus on what is it that I could possibly get in my body right now, because your body will use whatever you offer it. Any food is better than no food. That's sort of my motto, especially during treatment and the hard time. All right. So also a thing to remember is if it's hard for you to feel like you're nourishing your body, even if all you're having is milkshakes, I also remind you that nutrition is not your only way of taking care of your overall health and wellness. When we talk about having something to eat is better than having nothing to eat, nourishing yourself should be celebrated. And then you can, find other ways to care for your health and wellness through different types of therapies, art therapies, or through counseling, or through physical activity, other ways taking care of your body and your soul, that nutrition is not the only aspect of your wellness. So let's dig in a little bit more to the high energy foods, how to maximize your calorie intake through foods and beverages. Beverages can be really great sources of calories as well. So I like people to make sure that they are paying attention to those. First of all, kind of a simple thing is to drink your calories. So for anybody who's going through treatment, especially if you have any bowel obstructions that are making it difficult for you to eat, I often would tell people, you know what, if you can suck it through a straw, it's likely it can probably get by the, narrow parts of your intestines that might be obstructed. So for many people, figuring out how to meet their calorie needs through beverages is a possible strategy. So there are a few different caloric beverages you can choose from. Fruit juices, any of them that you tolerate. Some of the more acidic ones might not sit well if you tend to have low or slow gastric emptying. So things like grapefruit juice or orange juice might be a little too strong, but if you can tolerate it, those would be fine. Apple juice tends to be pretty basic and bland. Cranberry juice, apple cider, like hot apple cider, if you like hot drinks. Sports drinks are great for rehydrating you if you're having any nausea or diarrhea. Sports drinks have kind of the optimal. I would make sure you're not getting the ones with artificial sweeteners. You want to make sure that if you do get a sports drink, like Gatorade, that you're getting the regular kind that has sugar in it, because you need those calories, and because the way your cells utilize the electrolytes is dependent on glucose, and artificial sweeteners don't have glucose. So you need the glucose to help with those electrolytes. So make sure if you do get sports drinks that you're not getting, the low calorie sports drinks or the sports drinks where they're using sugar substitutes. Fruit punch, lemonade, Kool-Aid, chocolate milk, smoothies, whatever works for you to get extra calories through beverages is what we recommend. Now, this is my favorite smoothie to do. Whenever I do survivor classes or eating during treatment classes, I love to use this smoothie recipe. It's very simple. So, and you can use this with a nutrition supplement drink. So let's say that you are using Ensure or Boost or Orgain or, I don't know, Cake Farms or whatever brands. Store brands are great too. Carnation Instant Breakfast, whatever. It says on this recipe, 1 cup of milk. Now, that milk could be cow's milk, it could be soy milk, it could be, I use Fairlife milk a lot of the time because it's higher in protein than regular cow's milk, but you can also use your nutrition supplement drink in place of milk in this. Or you could use something like kefir if you wanted more of a yogurt type of taste. So you want your 1 cup of milk. Now, I do recommend with milk choices that you make sure it's a milk that has a significant amount of protein. I'm not a fan of almond milk or cashew milk or coconut milk because they tend to have almost zero protein. When we talk about having milk, we want that to provide you somewhere between, around 8 grams of protein or a little bit more. So make sure that whatever beverage you're using for this 1 cup base of the smoothie is something that's going to provide you with protein, and you can find that on the nutrition facts label. So we have our cup of milk, 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder, or a lot of times when I make it, I put a whole tablespoon, which by the way is 3 teaspoons. So there's your little fact of the day. And then one frozen banana. To me, it's really important that this banana is frozen because it will make your smoothie taste more like a milkshake. You could use a fresh banana, but then in that case, you may want to throw in some ice cubes to make it more milkshakey. And the banana, you want it to be kind of on the brown side. So I tend to wait until my bananas get spots. I give them one more day and then I put them in the freezer and then they're perfectly ready for this. I had this recipe for breakfast this morning. It's delicious. And then you add 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. That also puts a little protein boost from real food into your milkshake. And the last thing is, this is optional. So if it makes you feel a little queasy to think about putting spinach in your smoothie, you don't have to, but I promise you can't actually taste it. So it's like getting spinach without tasting spinach. So I use fresh if I have fresh spinach, but I have also used frozen spinach in these smoothie recipes, which is really great because it does add that extra icy texture and flavor into your smoothie. So I have done this smoothie recipe many times for groups, and I like to compare. Actually, I'll make it without, you can make it without the spinach, you can make it with the spinach, and kind of taste test. So really you're just dumping this all in and blending it up. It's delicious, but you can use any other smoothie recipe. I would make sure that when you're making smoothies, especially if it's going to be a meal substitute, that it has a significant amount of. And if you are choosing supplement drinks like Ensure or Boost or store brand or whatever, always look at the nutrition facts label and find the one that has the most calories per volume. You get your best bang for your buck that way. And really, that's what we're going for. We're not going for Slim Fast. We want to get these drinks that are really going to optimize the amount of calories that you're going to get. So I tend to encourage people to get the plus versions. The plus versions tend to have 100 extra calories and maybe 5 more grams of protein than just the regular versions. So as much as you can tolerate those, I think that they can be a great addition. We like you to get food as much as possible, but a lot of times that's not possible during treatment. So the nutrition supplement drinks can be very useful and can be used in smoothies if you want to change up the flavors. All right, so there we go. Speaking of nutrition supplement drinks, they might be your best option. So like I said, choose the highest calorie or protein combination that you can find. And to me, it does not matter what brand it is. It doesn't matter to me. Just find whichever one's on sale, whichever one you can get. Some of them do have like pharmaceutical type assistance programs if money is an issue for you. So you can ask your social worker to see if there's a way you can get those if it's hard for you to afford them. All right, so here's my tips on using those drinks. Obviously, you can put them in a smoothie because I think that's a pretty good way to do it. But if you're just drinking it plain, there's a couple things I suggest. First of all, drink it cold. Refrigerate the bottle if at all possible. So start there. So it's nice and cold to start. Then pour it over ice, like a lot of ice. I mean, I don't know if you can see me on screen here, but I have this huge cup here. This is what I would recommend. You have one of those really big kind of coffee mugs. Put a lot of ice in it. Then pour the drink over the ice. Use a lid and a straw. So this, not to brand promote or anything. This is a Tervis tumbler. I don't care which one you use, but they have the lids with a spot for a straw. Oftentimes it's the smell because they have so much nutrition in those drinks. Sometimes the smell of the vitamins and minerals can be off-putting for people. So especially in treatment, you're more sensitive to smell. So when you put a lid on it, that helps. When you put a straw on it, that helps too, because you're getting the drink further back in your mouth. All right, you can also turn it into pudding or ice cream. So you can look recipes up for that. I have them on my website, cancerdietitian.com/drink recipes if you want. We have made ice cream with Ensure. The pudding, you can even make like banana pudding by, using Ensure to make vanilla pudding and then adding bananas and cookies to it. So there's some, ways that you can kind of make it more fun so you're not having to drink 4 or 5 of these every day, always the same flavor. But if you can do that, that's also great. Whatever helps you get those calories and protein in is what matters. All right, so eating your calories. Great ways to optimize the calories you get in your food is to use fat or oils and add those to the foods that you already know you like. We pick on fats and oils because they have more calorie per volume than protein or carbohydrate does. So anytime that you can add fat, less fat goes a longer way than the calories that you find in protein or carbohydrates, although of course we want you to get a variety. But if we're looking at optimizing calories, anytime you can add fat to something, it will help add more calories. So peanut butter or other nut butters are great to add to toast, bread, have with apple slices or banana slices, crackers or celery. Dip pretzels in peanut butter. Use croissants or biscuits to make sandwiches instead of just plain bread. Add sliced avocado or guacamole to salads and sandwiches. Add seeds such as sunflower and pumpkin seeds to salads, stir fries, and casseroles. Ground flaxseed or chia seed is another. Now, you want to be careful if you are at risk for bowel obstruction. Chia tends to swell a little bit, so might not want to use those if you have a really narrow spot that your food is having to get around, but ground flaxseed should be fine. And you can add those to yogurt, smoothies, hot cereals, casseroles, anything, just to add a little bit more. Those are seeds. They'll add great fiber too if constipation is a challenge for you. Another way to add fats is also in combination with sweets. So you can top your hot cereal with brown sugar, honey, dried fruit, cream, or nut butters. Top pies with whipped cream or cream. Isn't it funny to hear a dietitian telling you about eating pies and adding whipped cream? But this is how it goes, right? When we're really trying to optimize the calories, you don't feel like eating much. If these sound good to you, this is what we go with. And then canned fruit, if you can find it in heavy syrup, that will also help add extra calories into your day. So generally, my take-home points for those of you who are in treatment is to notice how your body is feeling and functioning during treatment and being in an ongoing conversation with your medical team about whether you feel like your body is being nourished. If you notice that weight loss, if you notice a lot of fatigue or muscle weakness, definitely be in touch with them to see what kind of strategy you might need to come up with. Generally, if we can focus on eating regularly throughout the day and giving yourself the freedom to eat whatever sounds good to you, you will be able to nourish yourself easier. And then when you're having trouble eating, like there's maybe certain days around your treatment that you know you just don't really feel well, have a plan for those days. Figure out how to maximize calories and protein. Maybe it's just with your, liquid choices. And then use nutrition drinks if you need to. If you're not able to meet your needs with real kind of solid foods, that's okay to meet your calorie needs with nutrition drinks. All right, so what I'm going to move on to next is this section where we'll talk more about kind of beyond the treatment. Or if you're in a treatment regimen that's kind of a maintenance type of treatment and you generally feel okay, then what we encourage patients and survivors to do is to follow our recommendations in terms of healthy survivorship. And actually, to bring it full circle, the recommendations for those who are post-diagnosis and post-treatment is to follow the same recommendations that we give for cancer risk reduction. And so it really is, these guidelines that I'll share with you today are the same things that I would tell the general public we would encourage them to do in order to reduce their risk of cancer. Of course, there's no guarantees when it comes to cancer. We all know everybody, we all know somebody who's done everything right. They still get diagnosed with cancer. We all know people who've done, everything wrong and they don't. So there are, when I talk about healthy eating and evidence-based guidelines, these are really just patterns that we notice tend to reduce the numbers of cancer diagnoses in a population. So this isn't that someone who doesn't follow our recommendations will definitely, be facing cancer, but these are what we know is best for risk reduction. And quite honestly, I think the most important thing when it comes to this is the way of eating that we know will help you feel well. And to me, that's the most important thing is today, tomorrow, next week, how can we provide our bodies with nutrition that helps us feel well and optimize our quality of life? So that said, the guideline for cancer survivors is to consume a plant-based diet. I find a lot of people confused about what that means. So we're going to go through, we're going to talk about the 3 things you need to know about nutrition and cancer. We'll talk about what is a plant-based diet and what some practical things that you can do. So first, let's start with these 3 things to know about nutrition and cancer. Number 1, no food or nutrient itself can cure cancer or cause cancer. So if somebody is trying to tell you, oh, this, blueberries or grapes or kale is, a miracle food, and I heard it's really good for you, you should eat a lot of it. Okay, yes, blueberries and grapes and kale are good for you, but it's not a magical food. So if you don't like them, that's okay. And alternatively, same thing, if somebody says, oh, I think, you shouldn't eat sugar because you have cancer, or that's not true either. There's no one nutrient. Sugar doesn't cause cancer. And so I always encourage people to keep this in mind when they read news headlines or when their neighbor or someone forwards some email is, number 1, there's no food or single nutrient that's going to cure cancer or cause cancer. But we do know that the right combination of foods in a mostly plant-based diet plays an important role in maintaining healthy cells and reducing growth of cancer cells. So while it's not one food, when we look at healthy eating, what we see promotes the best health is actually a pattern. So a pattern of eating lots of plants. A pattern of eating plenty of fruits and vegetables. It's not so much which fruits or vegetables you're eating, it's are you eating enough of them, and are you eating them regularly enough? So when we talk about a plant-based diet, it's not any particular foods that are magical. It's the combination of lots of different plants that really kind of is the winning combo. All right, number 2, phytochemicals. This is really important. So phyto means plant, and chemicals in this case really basically means nutrients. So sometimes I say phytonutrients because people get scared away by the term chemical. So phytochemicals or phytonutrients are just plant nutrients. And evidence continues to show that minerals, vitamins, and phytochemicals found in plant foods interact to provide extra cancer protection. So there's over 1,000 different phytochemicals discovered so far. Antioxidants are a subcategory of phytochemicals. And so there's so many different ones. There's not certain ones you have to have or you can't have or whatever. It's just when you eat lots of different plants, lots of different colors, eat by the seasons, have variety, you will get a variety of phytonutrients. And that's what your body really needs to function at its best, to make sure your immune system is strong, to support muscle growth, to give you energy. And the only place you can find these is in plant foods. So I like to describe it as a phytochemical meter. If you and I were in a classroom, I would have this up on the board and we'd make it very interactive, where we kind of compare what the typical American eats and what, a healthy survivor eats. I always say people who are coming to my talks are not the typical American. So you are probably already eating more nutritiously than the average person. And so pat yourself on the back right now. But most people who do attend my talks tend to be a little bit higher than average in their nutrition intake. But what I like to do is look at, okay, when we talk about phytochemical meters, we want you to get lots every single day. So every day you want to fill up your phytochemical meter as much as possible. Phytochemicals are coming from, first of all, plant foods. The ones that are less processed will have more phytonutrients. So you think about brown rice. They haven't removed a bunch of nutrients from it, whereas that's what they've done with white rice or white bread. So brown rice, whole wheat bread, whole grains have more phytonutrients than the processed white versions. And then getting a variety of colors. So lots of different colors represent lots of different phytonutrients. So you don't have to have a nutrition degree. You don't have to memorize 1,000 different phytochemicals and figure out where they come from. You just eat plants that are colorful, and then you'll be building your phytonutrient meter. And you have, every time you eat, you have this chance to give your body more phytonutrients. So the other thing to point out is that your body prefers nutrients in food, not pill form. So you're much better off eating, brown rice and getting fiber and all these different, nutrients from the food itself. Or if you think about antioxidants, we don't want you to take antioxidant pills, especially during treatment. We do want you to get antioxidants from food sources like fruits and vegetables. And if you also think about it, nutrition supplements are about the most processed version of food that you could ever find. So you're much better off if you can provide your body with the nutrients it needs from food choices. Now, that said, nutrients work together more efficiently than on their own, which is why we like the food version, because your carrot kind of packages all types of different nutrients together. They work great that way. You digest and absorb them in the optimal ratios as it was grown, and that's what your body wants. With one exception, or I guess a variety of exceptions, if you have low nutrient levels on blood tests, so especially those of you who are in treatment or you have some kind of medical issue that causes your nutrients to be low, say your vitamin D is low or your iron's low or your potassium's low or your electrolytes are out of whack, that's when we need to use nutrition supplements, and they are essential for bringing those levels back up to normal. It's hard to get enough of it in the foods you eat because it's so varied in the foods, but when you have a low level, you want a supplement to bring it up. So if you feel like you're low, I would recommend you talk to your medical team about what lab tests you might be able to have done. And then if you have low levels, you could take a supplement for a certain period of time and see if it's working for you. The other thing I'll say is there's nothing wrong with using something like a multivitamin. I would just make sure that there's not more than 100% of any particular nutrient. If you're eating, there's no reason you need to have a supplement that has more than 100% of the daily value of anything. So just a generic multivitamin would be fine. And the other thing I'll say is if you are using nutrition supplement drinks, they're fortified with a lot of extra nutrition in there. So if you're mainly getting your nutrition intake from supplement drinks, pay attention to what's already in there, and you may not need to do a multivitamin on top of that. Okay, so like I mentioned, your food intake pattern is much more important than any individual foods you do or don't eat. So you want to aim to give your body plenty of plant nutrients each day. I tend to focus more on, are you getting enough of the foods that you need to function, rather than paying attention to a lot of lists of foods that you aren't allowed to have, because that's not fun, for one thing. Who wants to live following a list of what you can't have? It's more, I think, fulfilling mentally. Your mental health is better if you focus on the positive ways you can care for your body. And it's a lot more fun to figure out, okay, what foods do I really like that also provide my body good nutrition? So paying attention to plenty of plants in your food intake pattern. I hesitate to use the word diet, although to me as a dietitian, diet just means what you eat, what your typical intake pattern is. But most people hear diet and they think, I'm going on a diet. I'm not a big fan of that, but I do like for people to kind of pay attention if you're looking at making changes. A food record can be helpful to just see what your current pattern of eating is and see where you might be able to tweak something. So I say that eating is your opportunity to promote your health. When we talk about all these phytonutrients or plant nutrients that your body really needs, and there's no other place for you to get them except through the foods that you eat, then when you sit down to eat or drink something, you do have that chance to put those nutrients into your mouth, chew them up and swallow them. Now, if you're somebody who has to have a tube feeding, either parenteral nutrition or tube, you can get those nutrients just as well through the tube feeding formula, so that you can still give your body those nutrients you need. Okay, so these are the things that we really focus on. The tools you need to function: phytonutrients, those are the plant chemicals; fiber, great for bowel regularity and good gut health; vitamins, minerals, and hydration. So plenty of fluids. So I have kind of several different daily habits that I would recommend. And when you combo those all together, you will meet your needs. And the way I came up with this list is that I looked at several different healthy dietary patterns. So I looked at the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. The National Institutes of Health studied that. It's one of the top diets for good health. The Mediterranean diet, I think a lot of people have heard of that recently because it has gotten a lot of coverage. The anti-inflammatory diet. And then I also looked at the American Institute for Cancer Research. They're a really great organization that puts out healthy eating guidelines for survivors. They have a new American plate. And I looked at the My Plate from the United States Department of Agriculture. And what I did was I compared all of them. Okay, what is it that they all recommend and what do they all have in common? Because we all come from different ethnicities, different parts of the world, different family cultures, different taste buds. And there's no one way of eating that you have to eat. You don't have to eat like you live in the Mediterranean. But what we know is that their pattern of eating is pretty healthy. So I looked at all of these different ones and I said, what do they all have in common? And let's build our own sort of personal patterns, nutrition patterns, or food intake patterns on those key building blocks. So that's what we're going to discuss now. I can't remember how many there are. Sorry. I don't know. I might have 5 or 8, something like that. So number one, most important thing that you could do is to consume 4 to 5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. Now, that's not 4 cups of fruits and 4 cups of vegetables, okay? This is 4 to 5 cups combined. Personally, I'm like, I've never met anyone who ate too much fruit or ate too many vegetables, so I don't care whether you get your comboed 4 to 5 cups from fruits, more fruits or more vegetables, just whatever works for you. I think the My Plate says, if you put in, I think they generally say 1.5 cups of fruit and 2.5 cups of vegetables. So there's slightly more vegetables, but really it doesn't matter. Whatever's in season, whatever's in your house, whatever's in your fridge, eat it because that's what's going to help your body. Generally, I tell people if you have a cup of fruit with a cup of fruit with breakfast, 1 cup of vegetables with lunch, add a fruit on the side, 1 cup of vegetables with dinner, add a fruit on the side, and you have a fruit or vegetable sometime during the day with your snacks, you will build this up. And some people also tell me, wow, that sounds like so much. I challenge you to measure what 1 cup looks like for fruits and vegetables, put it in a measuring cup, put it on your plate, and look at that. We've got portions a little out of whack in our minds recently, so I think that can really help you feel like, oh, this is doable. Number 2, you want to spread your protein throughout the day. It is better for your body to have regular amounts of protein throughout the day rather than loading it all up in 1 or 2 big meals. Ideally, at meal times, you're going to have between 15 and 35 grams at your meals, and then between 7 and 15 grams at snacks. 15 grams is kind of on the low end, but for a lot of people at breakfast, it's hard for them to get more than that. If you're eating meat, so meat does have a higher sort of protein concentration, so it's easier to get protein in a smaller amount of meat. So a small portion is all that you need. A piece of meat that's the size of a deck of cards or a can of tuna is about 21 grams of protein, so that's pretty good. So it's fine to include meat on a plant-based diet. Plant-based just means most of the foods you eat are plants. If you choose to be a vegetarian or a vegan, that is totally fine. That's your choice, but you do not have to be a vegetarian or a vegan to eat a plant-based diet. Nutritious carbs, really important. So we talked about fruits and vegetables. We talked about protein. Now we're talking about carbs. I am not a fan of keto diet or any diet that really restricts your carbohydrates, because whole grains especially and starchy vegetables are so important for good gut health. So I think that it's important that you get good, healthy, nutritious carbs most of the time. It's still okay to have some of the less nutritious carbs sometimes, because we all want to have a brownie at some point. We all get to have cake sometimes. So you want to include carbs at most your meals and snacks, ideally 100% whole grains or minimally processed starchy vegetables like potatoes would count as your starchy vegetable. And generally the guide is to have carbohydrates on 1/4 to 1/3 of your plate at meals, or that might be 15 to 30 grams of total carbs at your snack. Fluids, extremely important. We talked about this even from the very beginning, is you don't want to get dehydrated. Your body needs water. If you want a little bit of flavor with that water, unsweet tea or unsweetened coffee gives you extra plant nutrients without added sugars. Sparkling water, diluted juice, low-fat milk are also good options for flavor without added sugars. And speaking of flavor, there are some really great ways for you to add more plant nutrients that also boost the flavor of your foods, and that's through herbs and spices. So when you buy unflavored versions of foods and then flavor them yourself at home, you have the opportunity to add not just, say, sugar or salt to your unsweet or salt-free foods, but also you can add some extra spices to it. So if you add cinnamon to your oatmeal, or say you add a little bit of turmeric into your hot milk to make like a golden latte, anything that you do that adds these herbs in will give you more phytonutrients. So they're great for gut health as well as supporting your immune system, and getting them in, the forms where you mix it in your food, like making a curry, also helps to give you the right ratio of those plant nutrients. All right, so our take-home points on this are to include plants in your meals and snacks as much as you can. So every time you're having a meal or a snack, you're thinking, hey, do I have my plants in here? Do I have a fruit or a vegetable present? Get a variety of colors of plants in order to get a variety of phytonutrients or phytochemicals that helps you build your phytochemical meter throughout the day. Have plant proteins at least once a day. This is what was common across all of the healthy eating patterns, is that even if you are a meat eater, a dairy eater, nothing wrong with that, but you still want to be sure you include nuts, seeds, or beans into your day once a day. And then get your bonus plant nutrients in either unsweetened tea or unsweetened coffee, herbs, spices, squeezing a little bit of lemon into your water. That's kind of your bonus plant nutrient. Okay, so this is pretty much most of what I have for today. There's a couple of places where you can get some more information if you'd like. So everything on the Cancer Dietitian website is no charge, so you can go there and get more information if you'd like. I do have specifically some pages specifically for treatment nutrition tips, and that's cancerdietitian.com/tips. And then I have a Survivor Diet email series that basically follows kind of those 5 recommendations that I give, only one at a time, so you can slowly take it in. And that's cancerdietitian.com/survivor diet. And then I mentioned the AICR, which is one of my favorite organizations for getting evidence-based nutrition and physical activity information specifically around cancer. So that's AICR.org. And I think that's it for today. So I really appreciate you all having me, and I hope this information is helpful to you as you continue on your journey.